Before we get too far into the semester, I would like to talk a little bit about plagiarism. According to Writing Program Administrators, or WPO, plagiarism is defined as, in an instructional setting, plagiarism occurs when a writer deliberately uses someone else's ideas or other original, not common knowledge, material without acknowledging its source. So here are a few examples of plagiarism. One example is turning in a paper that was written by someone else as your own. This includes buying essays online. This is a more blatant form of plagiarism. Another example would be copying a paper or any part of a paper from a source without acknowledging the source in the proper format. So you may cite source material from academic journals or other essays, but you need to cite the source of that information. It's also plagiarism if you paraphrase materials from sources like that without documentation. And it is plagiarism if you copy materials from a text but treat it as your own material. Here are some times you should document. Anytime you're using or referring to somebody else's words or ideas from anything like a magazine, a book, a newspaper, a song, a television program, a movie, an informational website, advertisements, or any other medium, you need to document the source of that information. You also need to document when you use information gained from an interview. It's very easy to cite interviews. The definitive source for looking up how to cite these sources on your works cited page and in your parenthetical citations is the OWL Purdue website. When you copy the exact words or a unique phrase from somewhere, you also need to document that. So if you're quoting materials from anywhere else, you need to document it. When you reprint any diagrams, illustrations, charts, or pictures, you need to document the source of that information as well. We will have at least one essay in which I require you to include an illustration of some sort. So you'll need to visit the OWL Purdue website and look up how to correctly cite that source. And then lastly, you need to document when you use ideas given to you by others, whether those ideas came from conversation or if they are in writing. If they come in conversation, you cite it the same way you would cite an interview. Here are some examples of when you don't need to document something. You don't need to document when you're sharing your own experiences, observations, insights, thoughts, or conclusions about a subject. If it comes from you, you don't need to cite yourself. You also don't need to document when using common knowledge, things like folklore, common sense observations, shared information from your field of study or your cultural group. If it comes from you or if it's common knowledge, you don't need to document. When you are compiling generally accepted facts similar to common knowledge, you don't need to document. And lastly, when you are writing up your own experimental results, because it comes from you, you don't need to cite yourself as a source. For more information on plagiarism, you can read our text, Praxis, A Brief Rhetoric, and there's a chapter section that's devoted just to plagiarism.